Hey, what's up guys? This is Rudy from Pro Civic. As you can see, we have the Buddy Club Racing Spec 2 exhaust in front of us, and we're going to be walking you through the installation process of installing this exhaust on our 2014 Sedan Si. Overall, it should be pretty straightforward. Once you have the car up in the air, which is probably going to be the hardest part because you want a lot of room down there, it's just a matter of unbolting the old exhaust, dropping this new one in. I'll be walking you through the process of undoing the hangers, breaking the bolts loose, and I'll be showing you what tools to use as well. So let's go ahead and get started and add some awesome race car sounds to our 2014 Si. As you can see, we already have our car jacked up pretty high. You want to do this as securely as possible, but you also want to, raise it up quite a ways to make sure you have enough room. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling underneath the vehicle, and it's just going to make things a little bit tougher. So get yourself on a nice flat surface and jack it up as far as you can. Once you have that all secured, we're going to start with removing the tail end of the stock exhaust system. Now we're going to use a 12mm socket. You might want to use something with a little bit of leverage in case the bolts are rusted. Get something that'll really break those bolts loose. There's going to be 2 bolts we're going to take off. After that, we're going to take off the hangers, the rubber hangers. And you want to use some type of lubricant to spray them down, maybe even spray them down overnight, and have the oils kind of seep into the hangers, and you'll be able to easily remove them. You could use a Prybar or a screwdriver to take them off. You could also try taking off by hand, but let's go ahead and show you how to take off this rear muffler section. So here's the 2 bolts we're going to be removing. They're right here, 12mm bolts. I'm just going to be using a standard wrench, but again, you might want to use something with a little bit more leverage. And once that's done, we're going to move our way a little bit more towards the rear, where we're going to get access to the hangers for this rear muffler. Now that we removed the 2 bolts here, just in front of this rear spring, we're going to be removing the hanger right up here. We're going to soak it down with some lubricant and then try to take it off with a screwdriver. You could also try this by hand, but being that these bushings are brand new, it might be pretty tough to do that way. And now we're going to remove the rear hanger right here. Next up is removing the rest of the exhaust system here, the stock exhaust. We're going to start off by removing this bracket here, going across, 2 12mm bolts, and then finally 14mm nuts. There's 3 of them right there. And the exhaust hangers are going to be the last thing holding this pipe in place. So once we remove that, we're going to be pretty much ready to start bolting on the Buddy Club exhaust. And as I mentioned, last thing we're going to take off to remove the pipe is going to be these 2 hangers. There's one right here. We're going to soak it down with some lubricant, and there's one a little bit downstream down the back towards the tail end of this pipe. So let's go ahead and get those off. One thing to note while you're taking this off is to be ready for this pipe to come you know, coming down. It's pretty much loose at this point. You might want to put a jack stand right underneath it, but just be ready to catch it, and then you can pull it out straight out the back and it'll all come out. So we've taken off the exhaust, and now we're gonna go ahead and remove some of these rubber hangers. We're not gonna use all of them, but you will need, I think, 3 of these. You could just grab like this one of these, and the one at the end. You're gonna mount those onto your Buddy Club exhaust, and then we can start bolting everything on. For our particular install, we're going to be leaving the stock catalytic converter in place. Because of that, we're going to choose to leave this factory O-ring gasket in there. Hopefully it'll help seal better. I know you're not supposed to use 2 gaskets stacked, but in this particular case, it seems like it would work out best. And if it, you know, ends up leaking in the future, we'll just take that off, maybe throw on a new you know, gasket like the one that's included. But let's go ahead and get this installed. One thing to note is the orientation of this front portion of the exhaust here. You could basically lay this down next to your factory exhaust, and you'll be able to see which 2 bolts are going to be towards the top and which one towards the bottom. Once you find that out, you can use a little a permanent marker. I used it to mark the bottom bolt here, and I'll just line that up and throw this on. One thing to note, you don't want to tighten these up completely just yet. You want to make sure you get the rest of the exhaust on. Then we'll come back, tighten these up, and put the bracket that goes across here back on. Next, we can go ahead and install the mid pipe here. It really only goes on one way, so there's no way to kind of mix that one up. But you do want to pre-install the hangers. It'll make it a little bit easier to get it into place. And along with that, you also want to lubricate the bushings themselves, either the bushings or the hangers, whichever way you want to do it. But just go ahead and throw this on, and we'll finish up with the tail section and then start kind of tightening everything up. And finally, the last piece of this puzzle is going to be the tail end of the exhaust. Now, one thing to note is, you are going to put your hanger, same as we did with the mid portion over there. Before you try to install this thing, it'll make it a little bit easier to hold everything in place. But Honda marks it with an up notation on the hanger. You actually want to put that towards the bottom. So the hanger is basically going to be sitting upside down. But that's the way we found that this exhaust will fit on here the best. It was probably designed that way just to give it a little bit more kind of room in certain areas, because this is a much larger diameter than the factory exhaust. So now we have the exhaust all pretty much in place. We just need to finalize the installation by putting the spring hardware in here to hold these joints together. Tighten up the 14mm nuts we took off down at the catalytic converter, and put that cross brace or cross member back, with the 12mm bolts that we took off earlier. And I wanted to show you how to use these springs that are included for these joints. Easiest way I found of installing these is starting off with the end that kind of is hanging loose like this. Put that side on first, either on the front or the back portion. Either side would work. And then for this other end of the spring or the hook here, I like to come in from underneath. So I'm going to use some needle nose pliers, namely some vice grip pliers. They really help everything hold in place, get it on there a little bit easier. Come in from underneath, kind of twist it up to where it'll hook on to the hole. And I'll show you that from a different angle as well so you can see it better. And that'll pretty much complete our installation of the Buddy Club Racing Spec 2 exhaust on the 9th Gen Si. Overall, it was a pretty simple process, and I hope this video helps you, if you choose to install this exhaust. It's a really quick and easy project to do on the weekend. But definitely always keep in mind, these types of exhausts are fairly loud, so you might want to check out your local laws and regulations. Cool thing about this exhaust though, it does come with the silencer, so you could always throw this on if you need the car to be a little bit quieter. But definitely check out our upcoming videos. We're definitely not done with this particular exhaust. And like always, subscribe to our channel for more installations, more unboxings, and other cool stuff. Thanks again for watching. Let us know if you have any comments or questions down below. My name is Rudy from Pro Civic. See you next time.